What's going on, people? This is Shok, and here's my review for Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. I finished this like, what, a week ago or somewhere around there, but I'm just now getting to the review. Sorry it's so late. But I'm sure a lot of you guys are interested in my opinion, regarding, considering the history, I have with this game, whatever. I was one of those people who was disappointed that it was made, that it wasn't something else, and I felt that Retro should have did something else that would help the system better, do more for the system. But with that being said, I gotta say this game impressed me. Now, I always knew it was going to be a good game. Always said that, never said it was going to be a bad game, people. I always said it was going to be a good game. And, not to mention it's a Retro game, so of course it's going to be a quality title, because Retro literally has a flawless track record, right? But, I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was going to be good, but I didn't know it would be as good as it was. I didn't know I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. To start talking about the game itself, let's talk about the controls. Controls are just nice and tight, nice and refined. This isn't one of those games where you can make a control excuse. If you die, that is pretty much your fault. Like I said, DK controls nice and tightly. He has this nice weighty feeling to him, but at the same time he's not heavy to where he sinks like right where you jump. So he kind of has this nice balance of, he feels like he has weight to him, but at the same time he's floaty enough. He doesn't feel too floaty, he doesn't feel too heavy. So Retro nailed the controls. My only gripe with the controls is how they have the ground pounding mapped to the same button as the rolling. And what will happen is sometimes when you're trying to ground pound something to activate something in the environment that's right on top of you or behind you or whatever, sometimes you'll accidentally be moving, you'll accidentally be tilting the analog stick or have your thumb on the D-pad or whatever, and you can't change your controls between D-pad and analog stick, by the way. And you actually like roll off the edge when you're just trying to ground pound the ground. So sometimes that can do cause suicides, but outside of that, the controls are spot on, very nice. You cannot control Diddy, Dixie, or Cranky in this game. The only way you can control them is if you are playing multiplayer and you're the second player. But if you're just playing by yourself, the only person you could control is DK. And that's kind of weird to me, because I remember back in the day you could switch between who you wanted to play as, but I don't know why they removed that mechanic or feature. That's just kind of strange to me. But Dixie, Diddy, Cranky, they don't really offer any advantages over each other. Just kind of different alternative advantages. For instance, Diddy gives you more horizontal, horizontal distance. When you jump, you can use a little jet pack to go kind of get a little horizontal boost. Dixie gives you a more vertical kind of boost, and Cranky pretty much just makes you jump higher. And you can also jump on spikes or enemies with spiked helmets and things of that nature. So none of them is really better than the other. It just kind of depends on what you prefer and your play style and things of that nature. Level design. I've seen quite a few reviewers say the level design is uninspiring and boring. Don't understand that at all. I really did not see that at all. The levels in this game will make you go like, how the hell do you even think about that? Like the level design in this game is very unique. For instance, one level, near the end of it, you're actually platforming up a giant instrument, that's being played or whatever, right? It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's kind of unique. There's another level where it's that silhouette level at the end. You guys, for those of you who have beat the game, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's one of those black silhouette levels where there's I think it was like massive ship that are like sinking in the snow or whatever, and you have to like there's some really unique elements, platform elements in this game. The level design is cool. There's this one level where you're in this wood chopping factory or whatever. There's another level where you're platforming on giant fruit. There's another level where you're up in the sky platforming on giant balloons and shit. Like, it sounds some of that may sound like just basic or whatever, but if you actually see the actual levels, you'll be like, oh, that was kind of cool. And there's another level where you're on this plain, like this savanna, right, that's on fire while there's a lightning storm going on and tornadoes. Yeah, fire, tornadoes, and lightning at the same time. So this game has some pretty awesome, cool levels and whatnot. And because of the level design, this game is hard as shit. And that's pretty much the main aspect of this game. This game is hard as shit. I know some of you guys may be looking at this game like, oh, you know, it's DK, it's a monkey, right? Be great for my kids. No. If you buy this game for your kids, you are a terrible parent. I'm telling you that right now. This game was not made for kids. It wasn't. This game was made for the old school fans who played the Donkey Kong Country games back in the day. Because it is unforgiving, it is intentionally hard, and Retro did not care what they were doing when they were designing these levels and these bosses, you know, things of that nature. And speaking of the bosses do not have checkpoints. And I went to this game thinking it was going to be the stereotypical, you know, platforming bosses where you just jump on their heads 3 times and they're dead like a Mario game. No. These boss fights are actually pretty long for a platformer. Like these boss fights, some of them will actually take 15 minutes, like 10 to 15 minutes with these boss fights, and most of them are like 3 stages. And like I said, there's no checkpoint. So let's say you're fighting for 10 minutes and you got the boss on the 3rd stage, you die, you gotta start all over again for a stage. You see what I'm saying? So, and that's not something that was overlooked. That was an intentional design choice, you know, that Retro decided to do. You see what I'm saying? So this game is intentionally hard. It is for the old school Donkey Kong Country fans. It's for the people who played the old ones on Super Nintendo, you know, and Game Boy and whatnot. You know, it's not for, you know, these new school kids where, you know, they're being raised in a day and age where games are, you know, hand-holding, things of that nature. I promise you it's not for them. So don't think about buying this game for your kid. Don't. If you want to buy this game, you know, buy it for yourself and don't expect it to be easy. Don't expect it to do any hand-holding. But this game is so hard to where every single time I pass the checkpoint in this game, I just said to myself, like in my head, like, oh, thank God, like another checkpoint. And that's not to say I was dying left and right, but because the first, I'll say like the first 3 worlds they're challenging. But I think there's a difference between challenging and hard. Like they're challenging, but once you get to world 4, 5, and especially 6, which is the last freaking world, hard as shit. This game is hard as shit, and it's not cheap platforming tactics like some reviewers put it. It's not. It's just hard, but it's not cheap. It's not like impossible bullshit, you know, or anything like that. It's nothing on that kind of level. And I'll talk a little bit about that later. But to get into other aspects of the game, graphically the game looks nice. It looks nice. You know, the art style, you know, is pleasing to the eye, but it's not something that's going to make you sit there and, you know, kind of just take in the environment for a second or anything like that. Really wasn't any parts like that. And there's actually some parts in this game that are straight up like Wii textures. Now, it's not like a whole level or anything like that. It's just parts of a level or the background of a certain level, you know, things of that nature. For instance, there's this one level where you're kind of like going through this autumn forest or whatever, and like there's these white trees in the background and they look like straight out of an N64 game. There's these bonus levels where you gotta collect all the bananas within a given time frame and you'll get like a puzzle piece or a balloon or something, and like those walls look like, you know, really flat, like Wii textures or whatever. So like this part's like that, but it's nothing like this whole level looks bad or whatever. It's just the beginning part. That foliage right there looks really low res or whatever. But like I said, overall it's a nice looking game, and the game does clean itself up like once you get to the 4th world. You know, 4th world and on, I really couldn't find any graphical infidelities, but for the first like 3 worlds, I was like, ooh, like really? Like that looks like freaking Retro straight out of Returns. Soundtrack. Absolutely amazing. If you guys played the old DK games back in the day, same dude who did the music, David Wise. Dude is a beast. The soundtrack, amazing. That's all I can say. The audio of this game, sound effects, you know, and soundtrack, 10 out of 10 in my book, hands down. Now, like I said, I was going to go back to the level design. Now, one thing I do somewhat agree on with what reviewers have said about this game, and this is pretty much my only major gripe about it, is how some of these levels, some, not all, it's not necessarily a constant thing, but some of these levels, for certain parts, it is trial and error. And that's just the way I feel. Like, some of these parts you are going to die the first time. There's no way you're going to get past it the first time, because you're just not going to see it coming. So I mean, and this is kind of my main pet peeve with this game, is that this game will kind of sometimes, you guys know how in platformers, how sometimes there will be a rhythm set, like there will be a certain you know, chain of enemies that are spaced, you know, at like the exact same distances, and you hit this kind of, you know, platforming rhythm, or those platforms that pop up and, you know, you hit this rhythm of, okay, you know, it's popping up at this certain rhythm that makes you, you know, follow this pattern. Tropical Freeze does that a lot, but it ends up getting you killed. You see what I'm saying? Hey, babe. So basically, like, there's this one part where these little slices of fruit are like popping up, right? And you're supposed to jump on them, like, you know, do it like that. And then you jump again, but then you just fall to your death because a platform didn't pop up in front of you. A platform popped up behind you. So basically, the game made you think that you're supposed to be hitting this certain stride, this certain pattern, or whatever. But then it just tricks you, like, ha, I lied, and then you just die, and the game pretty much just freaking kills you. Another instance, I remember I was on this Minecraft level. I said Minecraft, excuse me, minecart level, and you know, you're jumping on these isolated you know, rails that are popping up, and you're expecting the next one to come in front of you. Never comes, and you're kind of like sliding off the thing because it's tilted, and then you fall off, and then another one pops up behind you all of a sudden, you know. Another instance where you're on a minecart. A lot of these things have to do with the minecart levels. You had this debris like falling, you know, in front of you and on, you know, on the track, and it's not stuff that's happening on the far side of the screen. When this debris falls down on the track, it's happening like right in front of you, and like you could, you know to jump or whatever, but there's one part where this debris falls down the track and you're supposed to like duck under it, but it flies so close to DK that you're not gonna have a fast enough reaction time to realize you're supposed to duck under that thing. You see what I'm saying? So there's just a lot of times and instances in this game where it pretty much sets you up for failure. Now it's not a thing where it's like every other level, but I'd say there's probably like 3 levels per world and one part in those 3 levels where you're gonna die. Like, you're not gonna get through that level flawlessly the first time around. And that's pretty much my only major gripe about the game. There is no online play, which I might do a video on regarding retro statements as to why it doesn't have online play. But it does have time trials. After you beat a stage, you could go back and do a time attack of it, and you could compete on leaderboards and things like that. So that's nice for those who care for it. And you can also upload clips to YouTube. I haven't tried this out myself, but that's what I remember Retro confirming before the game came out. I haven't seen people do that, but that's what I've heard. So if any of you guys have used that yourself, if any of you guys can provide clarification of that, I would appreciate that. But yeah, have I talked about the bosses? Yeah, I talked about how the bosses are hard as hell, very long boss fights. It's not this 3 jumps and you win. You're going to take 12 to 15 jumps to kill this boss, and it's going to have 3 stages. And if you die, you gotta start at stage 1. So extremely hard game, extremely challenging game. It is for the old school fans. Like I said, do not buy this for your kids. Oh, one thing I forgot to talk about is replay value. It does have, you know, the Kong letters, the K, O, and G that you gotta collect throughout the levels. It has these puzzle pieces where usually it's like 7 to 9 puzzle pieces throughout a level. And there's also secret exits you could take of a level that will unlock secret levels or, you know, branched off levels. Because there's a main path you could do where you could just, you know, do the main missions and just get to the boss of the island. But there's also like other levels on that island that you could access if you get through like secret exits of the, you know, main route levels, things of that nature. So on my first playthrough, I beat this game in 21 hours without trying to complete it, without trying to collect things. And I ended up with 66%, which I don't know how I got that high without trying. So if you guys were to play through this game, a second game, it'll easily, you know, last you 40, you know, 50 hours if you're trying to be a completionist or whatever. And especially if you're trying to do the time attack stuff and things of that nature. So it's definitely worth your money. It's $50 normally. This isn't a $60 game, so there's already $10 you know, reducted. But they're definitely worth full price. This isn't one of those games I'd say, you know, wait for it to go down in price or buy used, whatever. You're getting more than enough playtime, you know, for the money you're paying, especially, you know, for 50 instead of 60. So I would definitely say that buy right now, especially if you're a Wii U only owner. If all you own is a Wii U, you should have this game already, period. Because you have nothing to play right now, unless you still haven't finished 3D World or something. But that came out back in November. You see what I'm saying? But that's pretty much it for my review. Like I said, no major gripes. The game is just hard as hell, and sometimes it does set you up for failure. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. There's no like major game-breaking like flaw or anything like that. It's a great game. I would definitely recommend it. Go out and go try it out, guys. But thanks for watching. That's it for my review. I'll see you guys later. Peace.